submission in its entirety. For all of us are in submission when we have said the Shahada, but that is not something which Allah Azza wa Jal has stopped at. He has said, Kaffa, all of you should try and complete this submission for my sake. That submission is a submission that penetrates through the hand, through the tongue. So that's when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Al-Muslimu man salima al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi. That others feel safe from his tongue, from his hands. Others feel safe from her tongue, from her hands. That is a true submission. This is the clear clarification of what Islam is from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mouth. Yes, you may find Aqidah books, and I find many Aqidah books dry and very sort of abstract from reality and of life. And until you don't come back to the original message of Allah Azza wa Jalla and the interpretations given by Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam of these meanings, then one can't understand the depth of what was said and what was meant. So one is that. Another one is about the trust in one's tongue, and that is the third verse which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam recite. Qulu qawlan sadida, that to be upright in speech. I've seen, I've had people taking marriage counseling from me for over 20 years, and I must say that if the trust is there, then the marriage is there no matter what goes wrong. But once the trust has been broken, it's like a mirror that has been cracked. No matter how hard you try to put the two pieces together, that crack in between will always be there. So it is about trust, and that is why the third verse is that قُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا يُصْلِحْ لَكُمْ أَعْمَالَكُمْ. Your whole, your actions will all become good, because if you're honest, then like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, الصِّدْقُ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْبِرِّ. You will be virtuous, you will be doing virtuous acts. And the one who does virtuous acts will lead to being Siddiq in front of Allah Azza wa Jalla. He will be a trustworthy person, even in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and it will lead them to Jannah. So that is the third verse. The second verse was about them being their submission to Allah Azza wa Jalla. And the first verse is about their way of, our way of understanding the whole background of what Allah Azza wa Jalla has done with us in terms of this marriage. Allah Azza wa Jalla, when He said, "Ittaqu rabbakum," have fear of your Lord. Alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida. Allah has created you from one soul. There's a lot of deep meaning in this. For whichever spouse you've got, whatever ethnicity she's got, whatever background she has got, whatever part of the world she comes in, we're all from Adam alayhi salatu salam. And the saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that wa Adam min turab, and Adam alayhi salam is from the dust. And dust is something that has humility in it, in its nature. So we are from the same. There's a massive lesson in this. Why Allah Azza wa Jalla's Messenger would say those or recite that verse in the beginning of nikah, because of us understanding that this from Adam alayhi salam's creation, from that moment Allah has decided for myself and my wife to come together, for Muhyiddin, for Asma to come together. That is something that Allah Azza wa Jalla has planned from beforehand. So when He has directed us to that, then continuing talking to us specifically about the arham, specifically about the womb. And why Allah mentions the womb is because of responsibility. Marriage, at the first stage, is about responsibility. Having illicit relationships, having people who have girlfriends, boyfriends, having those who have children out of wedlock, having those who have promiscuous relationships out there. All of these things are done without responsibility born in the mind. The reason why we have got a problem with having a civil marriage without having a trust under the command of Allah Azza wa Jalla is because this looseness without responsibility being taken onto the shoulders leads to great corruption in the society. And what has happened across the world, from marriage to same gender marriages across the world, having now across the world, it's becoming a phenomenon. It's becoming something that every government is forced to accept. What we understand is the reason why Allah has given that is because arham. If you think of the arham, Allah said that marriage is about procreation. That is what marriage is about. If you remove procreation, if you remove having children in marriage, then there is no such thing as marriage. That is why, I mean, we should stand by side to side with our Christian friends who are saying that this cannot be called a marriage if you have same-gender marriage, because one of the major definitions of marriage is to try and procreate. And that is why, so that's one ishara, one thing that Allah Azza wa Jalla has said. And more than that is a responsibility, because she is zawj and tomorrow she will be walida. See, the Quran has said before marriage to make the dua, azwajina, call her your other half. But once she has given birth, Allah has said, وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ. But now she has given birth to this person. She has born this child. So therefore she is now a bearer of the child. Mawludun lahu, the one who she bore the child for, is somebody who is respected for that case, fine. But she is one who has born that child. And for that reason, Allah Azza wa Jalla then says, then after that comes marriage. فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ. To marry women comes way after. The fact that having a person understanding the responsibility. What are you taking in your hands? You are taking the womb of a person, and that womb is a sacred womb. Allah Azza wa Jal in a hadith Qudsi says that I have created the womb, and whosoever makes up with you, whoever keeps the ties of this womb, I keep ties with them. وَمَنْ قَطَعَكِ, whosoever breaks ties with you, I break ties with them. This womb is something that Allah Azza wa Jalla has given a great blessing to, because it's the beginning of a new birth. It's the beginning of a new family. It's the beginning of a new whole tribe, a new whole clan. And that responsibility born in mind gives a person the idea that this is not a light matter. It is a very, very important matter, where later then Allah says, فَانْكِحُنَا. If you want to, Allah says, okay. But before even He says you want to, Allah brings adl, and He brings justice. Between the yatama, between those who are orphans, Allah reminds us that the adl between the yatama, between those who are orphans, and thereafter He moves on to the actual marriage itself. That's it. He told me to carry on till